Welcome to this episode of Martial Truth Podcast, my interview with Nate Carper, Bladesmith. I've been wanting to have a Bladesmith on for a while. The interesting thing with Nate, too, is he's a 22-year veteran of the federal corrections system. Retired a few years ago as a lieutenant, so having him on is great. He makes beautiful knives. So I wanted to have him on to talk about that. Hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation. Interesting, the whole process of knife making, how difficult it is, and hopefully in the future we'll have on some more bladesmiths that'll show us their wear and explain their methods for creating these not only beautiful weapons but works of art. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, please click that like, share, subscribe button. Consider becoming a monthly member. We'll be increasing videos over the next month or so. Things had to take a slowdown for a while, a lot going on in the Calandra universe, but I'll get back to producing, some of the different videos that I know you guys like. All right. So again, please enjoy the interview with Nate.
I decided to just make him a knife and see how I can do with it. And I did everything with hand tools. I had no machinery that I used. Maybe like a little grinding wheel, but for the most part, I did almost everything by hand with files, sandpaper. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and everything is kind of on the fly. And actually, he still uses the knife to this day. It was a Christmas present for him.
Wow. Okay.
But I've come a long way since then. It's just you just want to make the next one better than the first one. So that's kind of like how I do things.
Well, it's funny, right? Because the way you came on my radar was you had a post on Facebook showing that you'd won an award for one of your knives, right? At I guess a
Correct.
show you were in. So I'd been wanting to have a bladesmith on for a while, and when I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, let me reach out to this guy. And then it turns out we met years ago at a seminar I taught in Pennsylvania for Jim Fleming. So once again, the small world coming back to, right? Um, so what's it entail? I mean, I know people see things on Forge and Fire, but again, a lot of times on that show, things are in a compressed kind of, you're seeing a lot of stuff being done not in the real actual time. Um, Obviously, you probably have a forge set up at your house now.
Yes. It's kind of a makeshift setup. I mean, I use my two-car garage, and that's basically my forge area.
Right.
Um, I buddy of mine and I built a forge press, a 30-ton forge press. That's the biggest tool that I have, and it's helped me do a lot of Damascus over the last few years.
Okay.
Probably won't be able to do it by hand as many billets as I've done. Um, I've kind of like learning everything in reverse a little bit. Like, I don't, I, I try and do the best thing first and then go reverse engineer a lot of things.
Okay.
I do a lot of stock removal when I first started out, and now I'm starting to get a little bit more into the actual bladesmithing, hand forging my own blades and things like that. Like I said, I make my own Damascus, but I still, to a degree, do stock removal, which is just essentially just getting a pattern and then creating your knife or tool out of that.
Okay, so
Uh,
what you do, so you're saying is you create the pattern first and then you make the knife out of the
Correct.
thing you've created. Okay. So
Correct.
explain what Damascus is, because I'm sure a lot of people sitting watching this will not know what Damascus is.
So the modern Damascus is just basically pattern welded steel. To make it real simple, like a San Mai would be 3 layers. Traditionally, it would be two softer, non-hardenable steels on the outside, and then like a hardenable steel core on the inside. I do have one to show you that is a
Okay.
San Mai.
Cool.
This would be like a, if you can see that,
Nice.
that would be a San Mai style.
So on
So
that
it's a
style
guillotine.
there, it looks like there's black on the blade.
I apologize. This is actually a Gomai. This is 5 layers.
Okay.
Uh, this one, this one is a Sanmai. That's stainless steel over carbon steel.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that well.
Oh, I can see it very well.
But the black would be when you acid etch. So
Okay.
I acid etch in ferric chloride. for carbon steel blades. And when you acid etch, um, the acid reacts differently to the different steels. So generally, I use 15N20, which is a little bit shinier. That's the shinier stuff you see.
Okay.
And then the opposing steel I use with that's 1084 carbon steel. They're both carbon steel metals, and then they react differently to the ferric chloride when you acid etch it after
Okay.
heat treat.
So that's what creates the different color in terms
Yeah,
of
that
the
would bring
steel.
out the different colors.
Okay. All right.
I also incorporate like pure nickel into it, which will give you like a real vibrant color,
Okay.
um, which you can see on the this actually has nickel in it.
Okay. Yeah, you can see
Just
that.
some
Yeah. It almost looks like it's
something.
glow. It almost looks like it's glowing when it hits the light, a
Yeah,
certain
it's
way.
really neat to work with that stuff.
So again, you're working with different steels, right? Different things. So I'm assuming each steel has a different quality to it, where you have to understand how each metal reacts to certain things, and you have to develop that ability to understand that with each different type of metal.
Correct. And it's something I'm continuous. That's part of that reverse engineering. I'm
Right.
still continuously learning um, how to create the things and how they can work with each other in the environment. Now, those two steels I mentioned, the 15N20 and 1084, they both, I mean, we can get into like real in-depth thoughts on that, but they pretty much react the same in a heat treat process. So
Okay.
they're not really fighting each other in the environment. Um, it's one of those two steels are probably the most popular steels that most knife makers use to do the pattern welding or for or Damascus. Um, and then from there you can kind of like add some different steels and just test them out and stuff.
Okay. So in terms of the edge, right? So you're sharpening on a belt grinder.
Yes, I use a 2x72 belt grinder.
Okay. So now do you complete the edge with the belt grinder, or do you eventually go down to a stone for the final sharpening?
That's a whole genre in itself, the sharpening of the blades. But for my work, um, I initiate the edge with the 2x72.
Okay.
And for some of my hunting knives and things like that, you go up through the grits. And I generally use like roughly a 20 to 22-degree bevel. And I've been doing it for a few years, so it's kind of by eye.
Okay.
Um, and then like with some of my chef knives or kitchen knives, things like that with a more fine edge, I will take it to the stones and I will
Okay.
refine the edge a little bit more.
Okay.
Again, that's still one of those things that's a process I'm still like trying to chase the best edge you can possibly get. But
Right.
um, like I said, that's another genre in itself.
Well, again, I would think like you see on the TV show Forged in Fire, sometimes if the edge isn't done right, right, and that's part, I guess this is part of the heat treat, right, that you'll see the edge chips a lot when these guys go to cut something.
Yeah, that would probably be part of the tempering, a little bit of issues in the tempering or, just the wrong heat and
So
stuff like
now,
that when you're
when you heat treat a blade, you're quenching it.
correct. With my like I've been concentrating a lot more on making Damascus or pattern welding, what you want to call it. And I'll use um, it's called Parks 50. It's just like a fast quenching oil. You can actually use Crisco and
Okay.
motor oil and things like that.
Okay.
I mean, you can do those things. Um, it's just how much your wife is gonna like the smell of that in her oven after
Right.
when you're tempering it.
Right.
So generally use like actual quenching oils that are for those steels. Um, like I said, I use like a Parks 50, it's called. It's available on almost any outlet to purchase it.
Okay. So what else do you make besides Damascus? And what are the different things that you can make?
Um, started getting into making um, as far as like tools. I mean, I make hatchets,
Okay.
just um, different. style blades. I really have no beginning or end to what my interests are. I mean, I never imagined when I started this, thought I'd do a 12-inch Bowie knife. Um, I had a mentor that's all he did was Bowie knives, and I always
Okay.
vowed I would never do that. Well, now I made three this year, you know. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
Well, it's a
your
popular knife,
interests
right?
change. It's pretty popular,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's one of the big it's probably the American knife historically, if you think about it, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Bowie is I mean everything I'm reading a book right now titled Bowie's Mine, where a group of guys are looking for a supposed silver mine that Jim Bowie had found by Elmer Kelton. So I mean, look, Bowie's been gone for a long, long time, but his name still comes up all the time in different references, you know. So
Absolutely.
so physically, how difficult is the forging process?
Pretty much as difficult as you want it to be.
Okay.
You can do as simple. So my first, I should have brought that out. I actually have one that I hand forged a canister Damascus years
Okay.
ago, and it was inspired by Forged and Fired.
Okay.
You know, it didn't turn out the best, but it's a usable knife. Like
Okay.
it's aesthetically, you know, it could look a little bit nicer, but again, it was my first one. I used a charcoal forge.
Okay.
I did everything very crudely.
Okay.
It probably took me a few days to forge that out, um, with a couple failures in between as well. I mean, I think I fail at making Damascus a lot more than people think you do. There's a lot of trial and error with it. You know, even though you have there is formulas to certain things,
Right.
but even though you have a formula to do some things, it's just the weather can change how things go.
Right. So the other thing is like so you just mentioned using a charcoal forge. So what's the difference between using a charcoal forge and using the other type of forges we see?
Yeah, I use an
Is it
electric
a
forge,
is it
or
so it's an electric forge or was it are any of them gas?
I'm sorry. So the forge I use to make the Damascus, it's gas, it's
Okay.
propane.
Okay.
Um, in fact, that's actually pretty similar to what you see on TV. The charcoal, actually, I used. I think I read an article somewhere, and then I built my own with some tubing and a shop vac. Use the shop vac in reverse, so you're blowing air
Right. So
into it,
so you
and you
have a
use
constant airflow to
airflow.
keep the
Yep,
charcoal
and
going.
too constant would actually get such a high heat that it could melt the steel. It gets
Okay.
so hot. And I'm just using lump charcoal. So I mean, it's stuff that you can get at the hardware store,
Okay.
go down the street and pick it up. Um, and I used an old kiln that someone threw out that they were making pottery with, and I just used that and then built the forge into that.
Okay.
I used that for probably about a year or so.
Okay. So the difficult
Very crude,
so the difference with those two forges is the one is the heat consistency, correct?
correct.
It's harder to
A
keep it
lot more uniform.
consistent with the charcoal.
Yes, that's very difficult to. In fact, a lot of failures came out of just that was my heat system.
Right.
So I mean, kudos to the guys that still do that stuff, all the time. Like some people just like that primitive.
Right.
I would say it's like primitive forging.
Right. S-
Um, and making knives, I mean, you could sit there and say one thing or another, like this is the way to do it, or there is no one way to achieve your final goal. That's kind of how I'm pretty open-minded with it.
Okay.
Like I said before, I do stock removal to pretty much probably 80, 90% of my blades because I see how that's what my final product is going to be.
Right.
And there's guys that forge everything by hand out to shape.
Okay.
And I want to say I'm just saving my arm on that, just not beating the steel so much like that. But
So how does that process work then? So when you're working from the stuff you already have, you have pre-made. So are you cutting it or how is that process work? You still have to do some hammering, right? To hammer it out to whatever, So does it come out in a block form? How do you actually get it to the shape then you want it to be as the blade?
So for the most part, you can just buy. That was one of the things early on that you had to learn on your own. You to find the steel, it's you have to get hardenable steel, and you can't just go to the local hardware store and they don't have it.
Right.
Um, so I learned that a little bit of humiliating. Go to some of these shops and ask them for stuff, and they're looking at me like I had three heads. Um, so then I do a little more research, and the internet's a great place to start, but it's not the end all be all because
Right.
they think they give you the answer, but it might steer you in the wrong direction.
Right.
Um, so I found a couple of places online where you can purchase hardenable steel, and then just did some reading on what the easiest steels to work with are. And there's
Okay.
like like 1084 is probably one of the easier ones to work with. Your your 10 series steels. Basically, you can just buy it in bar form and then draw your design out on it. And um, I use a metal cutting bandsaw, but
Okay.
prior to that, I would either use a hacksaw or a 4.5 inch grinding wheel,
Okay.
just depending on how fast you wanted to do it.
Right.
Um, the bandsaw makes, quick work of it. And, you can get a rough shape out and then use your 2x72 grinder to uh, pretty much get your final dimensions.
It's
Um,
interesting. One of the things I say all the time is when you have the right tools, it's so much
oh,
easier. I mean,
absolutely.
like even me out here, I did all the work inside the dojo here. So all the molding, all the flooring, I put all that in myself, right? And I got this one tool that I'd always wanted to get. It was not an expensive tool, but it was one of those ones you knew you weren't like a guy like me. I'm not using it all that much, right? But it made certain things so much easier when I was working out here. It's like crazy, you know. And I would think if you're gonna, like you said, you have the bandsaw, right? You have the press, right? I mean, it makes a big difference, right? I mean, if not, you're doing all that stuff by hand.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of my blades just to Damascus take 20 hours or more just involved in that. So,
Okay.
I mean, doing something by hand, I can really appreciate guys that do that because that's a lot of time. And I mean, they get good at it. So, I mean, they can do certain things that
Right. But it's still a lot of work. And my thought process is too, is as you get a little bit older, it's probably a lot harder physically.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
kind of wish I did this 20 years ago.
Right. 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 Well, look, I say that about martial arts, right? I mean, it was a lot easier 20 years ago, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I have to work, I have to work very hard now to keep myself at a certain level of ability. I mean, you hit a certain age. I just turned 62 and I got to work at it. If I don't work at it, and I'm out here every day, I have to do something every day, right? Or else, like anything else, my physicality starts to slip. So, what's the average time it takes to make a blade from start to finish?
I would say if you're just going to use like one plain type of steel, for me, I could probably have 10 hours in something.
Okay.
I mean, I've really never timed it because I don't know if I just never wanted to really know how long it took me or
Well,
but
it's also, I mean, I look at it, my degree is in art and advertising design. So I was an artist, I draw, I paint, right? So I look at it as it's an art form too, right? I mean, so when you're into something and you're creating something, I don't really think you're looking at a clock, right? I know, I was working on a painting. I'm never looking at a clock saying, how long am I working on this painting, right? It just, you're enjoying it, you're into it, you're doing it. So, so you're saying 10 hours. Have you spent a lot more time than that on a blade, depending on what you're doing?
um I'll show you the one right now. I think I
Okay.
have close to 80 hours into this one.
Okay.
You can see it or
Wow.
not.
Okay, so that pattern would be called what?
So this is like I just call it stars and stripes.
Okay.
It's a mosaic. So it's trying to get into some new things. I haven't seen people do mosaics, and they're very time consuming. So the one is just basically 21 layers of steel forge welded down
Okay.
to a bar, and that would be the stripes that you saw. That's the 1084, 15, and 20. The stars, it's funny you were talking about art earlier. My daughter's art class, they were doing stuff with 3D printing.
Okay.
So I'd read an article, uh, some people were trying out 3D printing and making Damascus with it.
Oh,
So I struck a deal with the high school art teacher. I made a knife to raffle off to make money for the art class.
okay.
They made me a couple 3D designs, and one of them's that star. I
Okay.
had a couple of them. So that's powder. You take the powdered steel, um, and you take two different opposing steels, and you take basically the 3D print is like a cookie cutter,
Right.
and you do that inside a canister and forge weld that into a bar itself. And um, then you turn that into, you cut that so you have a four-way. I don't, basically like a four pieces of steel, forge weld those together,
Okay.
and then you draw those out to let's just say like an inch square. And then I would cut them at an angle and then lay them flat and tile them. So that's a tile of, if you look at the bar, it would be the uncuts.
Right.
So probably three, four different forge welding sessions, and
Okay.
I'm fairly new at all of this, so it
Right.
takes me maybe a little bit longer than most. That's why I said I probably had close to 80 hours in. I mean, it was a couple weeks I was working on it.
So can you hold that knife up again?
Yeah, sure.
So the cross guard. So is that a separate thing that you put on after the blade, or is that part of the blade? Yes,
The
that
guard
is.
here.
Yeah.
Yep. That's so this is a through tang.
Okay.
It's a through tang knife, so it goes the steel goes all the way through to about here.
Okay.
And then I have a guard. This is all bronze. And
Okay.
then I gave it a patina to make it not look so shiny, so I
Right.
kind of did that on purpose. It's a through tang, and then it's screwed with a pommel nut, so it's mechanically fixed together. This actually could be taken down like a takedown,
Okay.
like a
And
gun, takedown guns.
what's the handle made from?
The handle is it's amber dyed elk.
Okay. So that's elkhorn.
Yep,
Okay. So what materials do you use for the handles?
I use I kind of like traditional stuff.
Okay.
Like like my chef knives, I like to add a little bit of color to them. So like this one here, that's maple,
Okay.
and it's just dyed like an orangish color and stuff
Right.
like that. Um, I like, I like fossils.
Okay.
This one here, this is actually Usyk.
So what's that? What
That's
kind of material?
walrus, fossil
Oh,
walrus.
okay. Now that's more like a Bowie, right?
Yeah, that's a 10-inch blade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of one of my latest ones.
Yeah.
I do like the exotic. This is Coca-Cola. I'm
Oh,
sure you've
okay.
heard of
I have a
Coca-Cola.
pair of nunchaku made out of Coca-Cola. So
So that's a Coca-Cola.
that's an extremely
Just
hard wood. That's an extremely
yeah,
hard and dense wood. So
stuff is beautiful, just plain. I don't really
yeah.
do anything fancy to shine everything up either. I don't add stuff to it. That's just an oil finish on it.
So basically you're making pretty much every kind of knife.
Yeah, kind of whatever I dream up or yeah. I do take orders every now and then, but I think I'm just kind of shying away from that.
Okay.
I get thinking about it too much because I want it too perfect sometimes, and then it just takes for it. Like, I have some outstanding orders that are 5 years old. So, I mean,
Okay.
I just kind of whatever I dream up, sometimes it's just nice to make it, and then if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
So
Um,
so what the photo I saw of the blade that you got a little award for, right? So what kind of knife show was that?
Um, so I'm in here. I'm in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania hosts quite a few knife shows. I'm actually just quite new to those myself. It's
Okay.
the second one I've attended. So it's a lot of it's a mixed genre. It's a lot of knife collectors come there to show off their stuff. There's knife collectors that go there to sell, so they buy, sell, trade.
Right.
There's custom knife makers like myself. There's I would say there's probably about 20 or so custom knife makers
Okay.
within the neighboring states and within Pennsylvania. Um, there's people that sell just factory made stuff. So I mean,
Okay.
you can come out, just check out your factory knives. There's like step ups from the custom. They're like custom manufactured. So um, I don't know how to they're not quite a corporation like the bigger
Right.
companies like your Buck and your,
Right.
Schrade, things like that.
Right.
They're just probably a little bit, just they're manufacturing
Okay.
on a bigger level and scale than I can do with
Okay.
a couple workers with them and stuff. But I mean, they're nice shows.
Well, it's
Like I
like the
said, that
gun
one was
show.
the
It's like the gun shows out here that I've been to. It's the same thing.
absolutely.
You'll have, you
I've been
have
to a few.
guys that are selling their collections, that have guns that they're looking to sell in terms of collectible guns, and then you have guys that are selling new guns there. And you're also getting a lot of knife people there too. I mean, I bought an automatic knife there from a company. I bought one for my son too, who's a Phoenix police officer that he carries. The interesting thing with the automatic knife I bought, it was lifetime guarantee. So if something goes wrong with it, if it stops operating, you send it back, they fix it, which, that was one of the things that attracted me to it, because a lot of the automatic knives, the mechanism a little shaky sometimes. This one was really solid, which I was kind of surprised at. But again, like you said, it's the quality, right? Depends on who's making it. This wasn't a big company that was making this knife. I don't remember the name of it, but so how many of those shows you do?
There's one locally at Lewisburg that I do, and then that one's the only one I do. I had a full-time job, so it was a little bit
Right.
tougher for me to really get into doing shows years ago. And I have a couple of friends that are also custom knife makers, and they encourage me to do more shows because that's
Right.
obviously how you're going to get
Right.
seen. And
Well,
um,
well, listen, I'm looking at your work here, and it's impressive. And when I saw the knife in the photo that was on Facebook, I was like, "That's a really nice knife." I'll just show you this. I was given this as a gift, in Argentina a couple of years ago when I did a seminar. So, guy makes blades, and he gave me this, and it's sharp as, I mean, it's obviously, it's a butcher knife, right? It's a nice big butcher knife, but I mean, I was thrilled when the guy gave it to me as a gift, and he was bringing out all kinds of knives that he made and was showing me. So, I mean, I've always been fascinated with people's ability to make things, no matter what it is. So, have you tried making anything longer, like a sword?
it's funny you say that. Before we had our back and forth conversation about the podcast, I'd actually um, contemplated doing something like a saber or just something a little bit longer of a blade, just to test out my abilities, I
Right,
guess.
right,
I mean, I'm always trying to do something a little bit better
right.
than the last. Um,
Well, you want to test yourself
yeah,
too, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's things I don't know about, like the sword making. That's a whole other category of, blade making that
Right.
you have to do a lot of research to make sure you got the right edge geometry, the
Right.
right thickness of the blades. Um, yeah, it's not out of my element. 5 years ago, I told you I never was going to make one.
Right.
Um, but now I'm actually debating on doing one.
Yeah, because again, it's all about challenging yourself, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, look, it's the same with martial arts, right? I mean, I'm still learning new stuff. I mean, I just started studying Filipino martial arts about 6 months ago, right here in Phoenix. So again, I think if you're doing something you like and you're into it, you look to challenge yourself. I mean, and again, like even if the initially the sword stuff isn't great, I'm sure it'll give you even more insight into knife making, right? I mean, so it'll help you whether it works initially or not, right? Um, you know. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see you make a sword. I mean, you know, but so do you sell your knives?
I do. Mostly just it's mostly word of mouth. I mean, I
Okay.
start out with the little circle. It's almost like anything. Um, People word of mouth. Um, I set up at a I do set up at like a local festival in our own hometown.
Okay.
Um, really don't sell too much, just started doing the shows like I told you. Um, but my biggest sales are basically word of mouth. And, I'll get messages. Actually, I met a guy down at this last show I went to in Lehigh, and he lives in Jersey, never met the guy. And he said he heard from me through someone else. We got talking. I told him to, stop in. There's not just me, there's other knife makers there. And he stopped in and actually, introduced himself, and we talked for a little bit.
Okay.
So he didn't buy a knife, but it was actually
Right.
nice to get a contact.
Right. Right. So what's the
That's
price
kind of what it's
range?
about.
What's the price range on your knives?
Um, I'm starting to get a little bit out of my comfort zone as far as like pricing them, but my stuff starts around, 150, $200, and it can
Okay.
go up to $3,000.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I
No, I
say
mean,
like it's out of my,
yeah, but listen, man, it's a custom thing. It's a custom thing. I mean, it's again, like I said, it's not only a functional tool, it's a work of art, right? Um, I mean, like at work, I mean, as a police officer, I mean, I always carried a knife. I mean, so for me, it was a functional thing, right? I mean, it's still to this day. I mean, when I walk out of my house here and I go somewhere, I mean, I'm not only armed with my firearm, I also carry a knife everywhere I go. I jokingly say I've used it more to cut, things, as a tool than I would ever use it in self-defense. I've never had to use a knife in self-defense, knock wood, right? But I mean, at work, I always carry it in uniform, and when I was doing the dignitary protection for the senator, I carried a knife in the across my on my belt across my lower back, and I carried it so I could reach and grab it with my left hand. If someone was trying to maybe control my firearm, I could reach and pull the knife out and use that. And funny story with that. I took my jacket off one time. The office was closed, so it was just the senator and a couple of staff people and me, and it was warm, so I took my jacket off. And one of the female staff members looked at me and she goes, "Calandra, is that a knife?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Why do you carry a knife?" I said, "Men like me carry knives so pretty young girls like you can sleep warm and safe in your beds at night." And she looked at me and she got a smile and she goes, "Okay." She goes like, "Okay, you know." So you worked in corrections.
yes,
So 22
uh,
years?
just under 22 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
So federal corrections.
federal. And I
Lewisburg?
worked all Lewisburg and Allenwood both,
Okay.
which is just 10, 15 miles north of it.
All right. So can we talk a little bit about corrections?
Sure.
Okay. So let's talk about knives in terms of corrections. So I know me, when I would arrest a criminal, if the criminal wasn't a complete flaming moron, I'd ask him questions while I was sitting in the cell. I'd ask him questions like, have you been in prison? Yeah. So have you seen any attacks in prison? What were those attacks like? How does a guy come at you? What do they make the stuff out of? So you want to talk about that a little bit? Like what are some of the things you've seen them create and what they've created weapons out of, what kind of utensils and different things that they'll create things out of.
Just about anything they can get their hands on, it seems like. Um, the wire from the wire fencing is probably the most popular one.
Okay.
Um, Down to parts of food service trays,
Okay.
the lids from the food service trays to the end caps on a set of bleachers. I mean, just think about the aluminum on the end of the
Right.
bleachers,
Right.
and then some of that stuff doesn't go through metal detectors, so you just, because it's such a small amount of metal,
Right.
or it just doesn't get picked up. So it's kind of interesting how much actually gets through. And I would say probably just about every inmate probably carried something on them at all times.
Okay.
Toothbrush.
Right.
Toothbrush is a good one.
Right.
Um,
I had a
yeah,
guy.
almost anything.
I had a
Go
guy
ahead.
tell me. I asked the guy. He did a lot. He did a hard time for armed robbery, and so he was telling me we're talking about stuff, and he goes, I was in the same prison as the son of Sam, David Berkowitz, upstate New York. I said, oh. He goes, yeah. He says I was with this crew in prison, and they decided they were going to kill him. And I said, oh. I said, how are they going to kill him? I said, well, they were going to take. He said they had gotten the top of a tuna fish can. And he said, and I said, well, yeah, that's sharp. He goes, yeah. And he goes, a couple of guys were going to hold him down. They were going to cut him. They're going to slice his throat. And he said somehow they got wind of it and they moved him into protective custody, so no one could get near him, you know. And I had another criminal I locked up, and I asked him, I always ask, any, have any weapons on you? And the guy goes, yeah, yeah, I got a knife up my sleeve. I said, all right. So I took it, and he taped. It was just a small blade with a plastic handle, and he taped a shoelace to it with a loop, and the loop was around his wrist. So I said to him, I said, so why do you do that with a knife? He goes, well, when you stab a guy in prison, he goes, the knife gets bloody and it could slip out of your hand. So if I drop it, it doesn't fall to the ground. I can just grab it again because it's just on the shoelace, right? So would you say that's one of the things you see them do, or right?
Yeah, I mean, I could. That is one of the things that when you do find a knife on an inmate, when you search them and stuff, they'll have a lanyard of some sort
Okay,
with it. And a lot of times it's also so they can retrieve it out of their pants or however they have it on them.
right.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely crazy some of the things that they can manufacture into weapons, with the time and you know, the, the know-how that they have.
In terms of it, have you seen any attacks in prison where one guy attacked another guy?
Uh, a lot of times if I'd see it, it would be like almost to the end of it. So, I mean, I've seen some, but not to the extent that others have.
Okay,
Some of the places I've worked in, they're segregated so much that a lot of times they're just cellmates with someone that they actually, one of their own gangs or,
okay.
um, someone they can coexist with, I guess. So it's minimal the amount of fighting and stuff that would go on. But I've seen a few. It's just sometimes don't want to really speak of it, I mean,
Right.
it's one
Well,
of those
I'm
things.
assuming the attack is very dynamic. I'm assuming it's
It
not one stab and the guy backs off. I'm assuming it's like he's poking a pincushion.
Yeah, and a lot of times they know exactly what they're doing.
Right.
Um yeah, they know exactly what vital organs to attack, and if they wanted it, there's a difference. It seems like there's just enough to show that they have to do a discipline on somebody, or if they actually want to kill somebody. So I mean, I've seen that where a lot of what I've seen is more or less a disciplinary. So they would stab them or strike them with whatever tool or weapon they had, and it would mostly just to prove a point or for
Send a
disciplinary
message.
reasons.
Send a message.
Yep,
The other thing is
absolutely.
I'm sure so being you've seen these guys get, cut. It's amazing how tough the human body is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't take someone to the hospital and you can't believe that they are actually going to make a full recovery, and
Right.
then someone falls off their bicycle out on the street and it's
Right.
like
Right.
the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Just crazy.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that comes up all the time is there's within martial arts circles of the fact that you shouldn't teach defensive techniques against the knife. You shouldn't teach gun disarms. But then I had a Filipino knife fighter senior instructor on the channel, and he says, "Well, why wouldn't you teach that stuff? He says, it's better than nothing. He says, you got to have some type of way and understand what to deal with as opposed to, oh, I'm not going to teach that to my students because it's too dangerous. And I don't want, okay, but yeah, what happens when the guy comes at you with a knife? You're just supposed to go, okay, kill me, and that's all right, call it a day. So, I just find it interesting. I just find a lot of martial arts people only teach these kind of static attacks, where the guy comes in like this and stands there, and then does the technique. And like I say all the time, when I initially teach, I teach that, but then as we go through the thing, the attacks become dynamic. It's not just one stab. It's the guy's trying to stab you multiple times and really trying to, and now can you deal with that, And it's interesting though because again, I interviewed someone last year, Chip Armstrong, who lives up here, up in Sedona, and he founded the one of the founders of the Hoplology Society, which is the study of human combatives. And he mentioned that there's only three groups creating fighting techniques, and that's the military, law enforcement, and criminals, right? And when you think about it, right, it makes total sense, right? And that's one of the things I don't think people realize. And I think a guy like you who worked in corrections, you see the fact that these criminals, they have their own techniques. Like they have techniques, they have things they work on, and they exchange, ideas with each other about how to accomplish certain things they want to accomplish. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, uh, there's also a majority of inmates that had the martial arts background as well on top of that. So it's sometimes almost a double fold. So and of course, you're pretty much made known to who those inmates are, and sometimes you just keep an eye on them a little bit more than others.
Right.
But yeah, that makes absolute sense. I mean, like what you're just saying.
Yeah. And again, people don't realize it. I mean, that's why one of the things I laugh at is some of the modern martial arts training, they only train against martial arts attacks. But, you know, do you know how a criminal actually attacks? Do you know how the techniques they're going to use? Because that's what you're going to more than likely have to deal with. You're not going to be dealing with a guy throwing a karate style punch. You're not going to be dealing with a guy throwing a karate style kick, right? You're going to be dealing with a guy who attacks in a certain way because that's the way it's been successful for him, you know? So,
Absolutely.
so what's the plan for the future with the forging?
Um, for the most part, it's I look at it as a hobby almost, that pays for itself because um, oh, quickly I want to show you this is the very first knife I made, by the way.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty good
So
first
that's how
knife.
crude
Yeah, but that's still pretty
that was
good.
completely done. But my son still uses it hunting every now and then.
Yeah. And what's the
He
handle
likes to
made of?
keep it.
What's the handle made of on that one?
This is it's like G10. It's like a composite.
Okay.
It's they call it a camouflage G10, so it's like OD green and black.
Okay.
Um, just with what I had. I mean, that's you know the very first one. But so starting out as a gift, and then I started making it, and then my circle of people I worked with, friends, family, I did start selling them, and essentially it just to buy more tools.
Right.
So I don't look at it as at this point, it's not to me, it's
Right.
not like a money making adventure. It's
Right.
to buy more tools to make nicer knives.
Right. But it'd be great if you
So
could it'd be great if you do make a little money at it. I mean, you're putting a lot of work in. The knives look really nice. I mean, so why not?
yeah,
I mean,
I mean, maybe someday it'll turn into
yeah.
that,
You know.
but I,
And again, it
I'm
doesn't
just
have
fortunate.
it. I was just going to
Go
say it
ahead.
doesn't have to be a crazy big business where you're overwhelmed with stuff. I mean, the nice thing is when you're doing it with the attitude you have, you don't want to do something. You just tell, I'm not interested in doing that, right? I mean, you pick and choose what you want to do. You don't have to, you know, have 50,000 orders lined up where you can't even. There's no way you'll ever get to them all or keep up with them. You know.
Yeah, I feel that's it's easier to make them and then find someone that's suitable to buy that than to um, because I mean, everyone comes across those people, but there's some people that just there's never enough to something, like so. I've had a couple people, want something made, but it's almost unimaginable how you can make that. So I mean, like I would need a manufacturing company to do that.
Right.
And I politely decline and
Right.
maybe we just change design or change what material I'm going to use or even how I do it, but
Right.
or we just don't do it at all.
Right. Well, I think I think you see that within the dealing with the public, right? They have outrageous expectations sometimes. No matter what I think it is. I mean, martial arts are a prime example. Someone walks in here, they think in a month they're going to know what they're doing. Oh, I'll join for a month and I'll be okay. Yeah, no. I mean, that's fine. You can do that. We're not gonna really get anywhere or be able to do anything, but feel free if that's what you think. So I think yeah, expectations I think sometimes are a little out of hand. So, what are you working on right now?
Um, I'm actually working on cleaning my shop up right now
Okay.
because it's a mess. But um, this morning I actually I started a billet of to make some Damascus tomorrow. I'll probably
Okay.
be making just usually when I make a billet of Damascus, it's anywhere from a starting point of 25 to 32 layers somewhere
Okay.
in there. Um, this will have the 15N20, the 1084, and then I put 5 layers of nickel, and then so I'll forge weld that into a bar, and I'll cut that, and I'll restack that up and make another. I'll probably have 100 to 200 layers by the time I'm done with it.
Okay.
Um, I eventually want to get into folding knives, so like I'm thinking of making some Damascus to get into some folders.
Okay.
That's one of those genres of knife making that's very meticulous. I mean,
Well,
it doesn't have to be to start with. I made a pocket knife a few years ago and I gave it to my daughter. It's subpar,
right.
but I had very limited tools.
Right.
Um, I want to try and get into just doing a little bit more of that. And it's just, I actually have a lot of customers that are for 5, 6 years now have been asking for pocket knives, and I just politely decline and say someday, but I think I actually want to try and get into that. I have a little bit of time, so
I guess that's a whole different ball of wax. I mean, because now
oh,
you're talking a mechanical device on top of making the blade.
absolutely.
And I mean, like I have one knife I have again, some of them the blades don't lock out, on a folder, you know. But obviously it helps if the blade locks out with the folder, you know. I think you froze for a second. So you'll come back.
Yeah, the first oh one of one of one of the first ones, um, they're called slip joints. So like what you said, they don't lock out, but
Right.
they're mechanically
Right.
they'll stay in a locked position.
Right.
Um, it's I don't even want to say it's easier, but it's one of the first steps in making some of the more complicated designs.
Okay.
Like you got your lock backs,
Right.
um, you got your line locks, which are like your more popular ones nowadays. Um, and I don't even know much history on it, or it's there's a lot of learning to do with this stuff. So um, I wanted to do this for several years before I even really tried tackling making folders. It's a little bit more meticulous,
Okay.
and I think I'm getting to where I'm try and start doing something like that.
Well, because again, you
I don't know to
challenge
what
you
degree or
you
how many
challenge
I'll make, but
well, you're challenging yourself, right? I mean, you're challenging
right,
yourself. You've gotten pretty good at a certain type of thing. Now you're like, well, maybe let me push myself a little further. Let me try this. I mean, same thing if you try a sword, right? You're pushing yourself. You're going to your limits instead of just staying in your comfort zone, you know? Well, I mean, it's true, right? I mean, it's very easy to stay in your comfort zone, right? But you push yourself outside your comfort zone, things change. There's things I'll teach that are very athletic, right? That you'd never use in a fight, right? But I have let some of the teenagers do it. And then when they go back to doing this, the more simpler thing, oh, this seems so much easier. Well, right, because you pushed yourself out of that comfort zone. And now you went back and you're like, oh, this feels a lot easier. So yeah, I think it's great that you're expanding and trying to do different things. I mean, I think that's what we all should be doing all the time. I mean, that's why I'm always learning a different martial art, right? Because I don't want to get comfortable, even though I do all this stuff and I'm practicing all these years, right? I don't want to be comfortable. I still want to be a beginner at something. I want to try new things and see, well, can I do this, right? So I think it's great that you try in folders. So, I mean,
Right.
I'd be curious to see what they look like. I mean, that's what I carry. I carry a folder. Um, I prefer a fixed blade, but it's just tough. I mean, it's bad enough I got to conceal a gun, let alone now conceal a gun, a fixed blade, you know. Um, but out here in Arizona, obviously, a gun and knife culture. So you see, I mean, you don't see too much open carry out here, even though we can. You don't see it too much. You see more open carry with knives. You see a lot of guys carrying knives. A lot of the guys are working guys. I mean, they're outdoor. A lot of outdoor workers. They're carrying knives. You know, um, New
Okay.
York. New York. There was a time when virtually every single criminal we arrested had a bladed weapon on him. Virtually every single one. I mean, if they didn't have a weapon, we were surprised. So,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, there was, I mean, and I've taken everything from hatchets, uh, I mean, you name it, we've yeah, ninja climbing claws. I mean, every crazy a kama, an Okinawan kama, the sickle. I caught someone carrying one of those. So yeah, so you see that out there. Have you given thought to making any martial arts weapons?
Not really since gym asked, just sometimes in joking, some people ask me to make some throwing stars or something like that. But, you know, um, it's one of those things that you always seem to think you'll have time to do something like
Right,
that, and just the time never happens.
right. See, like
So,
for a guy like you, I would think something like the comma would be the thing to make because it's a blade. It's a sickle. So it's a blade. It's just a different shape and different way you have to attach it. But you know, I mean that would I think be the thing that if you were going to make a martial arts weapon, a guy like you, I would think that would be one of the ones you would try because that would be more to me in your comfort zone. I mean, it's just a blade, right? So,
true.
you know, and I know in Okinawa, I buy them in a hardware store.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So now I have some that were made by weapons companies, but the best ones are the ones in a hardware store, and they're literally like $25 a pair, $20 a pair. They're super cheap. You buy them from a weapons company, and they're charging you $200 for a pair of kama, and the ones in the hardware store are just as good, if not better, because they still use them in Okinawa to cut. They use the cut in gardening. They use it as gardening weapons.
Right.
So but and they're sharp as hell. Trust me, I've got an 8-inch scar on my leg from cutting myself with one. So, and do you ever test your blades?
As far as, like,
Cutting
I
strength?
mean,
Like, have you ever
not
decided,
really.
okay,
Um, a lot of guys that buy the stuff that they do use them for field use. I mean, so a lot of hunting
okay,
situations. Um, I always encourage feedback and stuff, but a lot of guys they seem to like what I produce for their hunting applications, and
okay,
unless they're just trying to be nice to me, but um, that's the extent. I guess I've had a couple people baton some spines of deer, but the
okay,
knife wasn't meant to do that.
okay,
So, they brought them back
okay,
because they were,
okay. Right. Well, it's like anything else. If you use a tool the way it's not intended to be used, usually bad things happen.
yeah.
I mean, it's
And
just that's just the way it is.
they're kind of a part of me, so I always cringe when I hear that there's something.
Of course, you made it, right? So it's like it's like the thing you created, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah. Do you make any double edge blades?
I've started making quite a few.
Okay.
They're well, one of them's the New York Special. It's a Bob Loveless style design.
Okay.
Um, and then he did another one. It was called the Hideout. So I kind of like make similar to his styles, and I'll do them out of Damascus
Okay.
or you know just put my twist on it.
Right.
Um, Actually, my son and I are working on one. We're a 1918 trench knife, if you've
Okay.
ever seen those, like
The the knuckle dust, the brass
cool
knuckles.
looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like the knuckle dusters
Yeah.
with the,
Took one of those off a
yeah,
criminal. Took one of those off a criminal too. A cheap one, but
we're working on one of those just to, they're effective.
oh, they're very effective. So your son's
But
doing it with you too?
he's interested in it, but both my kids are in college, so like he'll come home. He's coming home on break and he wants to work on finishing that up and stuff.
Okay.
So
That's good.
um I don't think he I don't think he really appreciated what goes into making one. And I had him do some of the process,
Right.
and some of the process would be hand sanding. So I had him, I said, well, here, you want to try to do a little knife making, do hand sanding and see if you like it.
Right.
Yeah, it goes over like a lead balloon.
Well, it's interesting. One of my female students out here, she's studying to be a farrier.
Oh, okay.
And she's only 16 and she rides horses out here. Obviously, I'm in a big horse culture out here in Arizona. She does barrel racing and different things, and yeah, that's what she wants to do. She wants to be a farrier, so she's studying with a female farrier. Um, and I told her I think it's great, but again, it's when you can when you can create things with your hands, it's always impressive to me. Whether it's horseshoes, knives, it makes no difference. When you can make these different things, it's impressive. Um, and then, like out here, that's an important skill. Uh, you know, there's so many horses out here. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
they're everywhere out here. I mean, people ride by my house on horseback all the time. I mean, there's horses everywhere out here. People riding. So, you know, but well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I've been wanting to have a bladesmith on to give people an idea of just the kind of work that goes into this and what it's like to create not just a weapon, but in a lot of cases a work of art. I mean, your knives are really nice looking. I mean, they're beautiful. They're works of arts, and so it's an incredible functioning tool. And the thing is, I think the blade historically always holds a fascination with people, whether it's a knife, whether it's a sword. The blade is so you know, in us, from throughout history, right? I mean, we attach all these mystical things to blades and whatnot, whether it's the samurai sword or Excalibur in Europe. And I just think it's fascinating, a fascinating thing, and the fact that people can make them. And now it seems to be becoming more popular. There seems to be more guys getting into the knife making thing, which I think is great. I mean, I just think it's a great thing. So I appreciate you coming on, and I hope in the future you do more knives and hopefully sell some stuff. I think your knives are worth it. They look really nice. So thanks a lot for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed that interview with Nate Carper, Bladesmith. I enjoyed talking to him. Again, quiet guy. Doesn't seem to like to talk about himself too much, but that's okay. And his knives are beautiful. I mean, they're just beautiful. So if you're interested in those, his details will be in the description where you can contact him and talk to him about buying one of his knives. Again, if you enjoy this podcast, please click that like, share, subscribe button. Tell your friends, spread the word. All right. And I'll see you in the next podcast. Take care.